Hey there, this is Katie from Health, Wellness, and Chocolate, and I just wanted to thank you so much for being here with me today. I wanted to talk to you today about something that I wrote about in my ebook, How to Eat Like Your Skinny Friends, and a well-known person in the fitness industry just put out a video and backing up basically what I have talked about inside How to Eat Like Your Skinny Friends ebook that I had made. And I wanted to share it with you because I think you'll find it really enlightening. And two, I think you'll find it really encouraging. I think it's a step in a positive direction, especially when it comes to the health and wellness industry. I have been saying for years that, the health and wellness industry for so long has only focused on what size you are, right? And then that was considered this idea of health, okay? And so if you were a size 2, it didn't matter if you were completely sedentary, you didn't exercise, maybe you smoked like a chimney, whatever. They didn't care about that. It was just like, well, you're so tiny and petite, you must be super healthy, right? And you'd have this image of health in your mind just because the person was thin. And then you have the other extreme too. So if you saw someone who had some meat on their bones, you would automatically, they would be labeled unhealthy or lazy or, unmotivated or whatever. And instead, that person, maybe they have a few extra pounds on their body. And I'm not talking about morbidly obese. I just mean really just a few extra pounds on their body. But they're probably their A1Cs are probably in excellent condition. Their blood work comes back great. Their iron levels are good. They're, all the nutrients that their body needs to function well exist in this body that might be a little bit bigger, but visually, because it's not this size 2, for so long, people have attached this idea that, well, they must just be unhealthy or lazy or whatever. And that is something that I really, even myself struggle with. I was a size 22. I am now a size 10. My body has had 8 children. I don't even know if I really want to put in the effort and the time that it would take to take my body down to a size 5. I've never in my life can even recall ever being a size 5. And so I know what it would entail. And I'm like, I don't think I really care that much to do that. I know right now, for me to define health would be, absence of disease, feeling comfortable in my own skin, not having aches and pains, not having, any diseases of lifestyle like prediabetes, hypertension, all the issues that come from living an unhealthy life are not there, right? Even though I'm not a size 2, and maybe some people would think, oh my gosh, a size 10, that's terrible. How, whatever. That's fine. You're allowed. But for me, I feel comfortable in my own skin. But as somebody who is a health educator, you struggle with this feeling of maybe being an imposter because, oh my gosh, I'm not a size 2. I'm not going to wear a bikini. Even if I was a size 2, I probably wouldn't wear a bikini. I've had 8 babies. I don't want to wear a bikini, I kind of joke and I say it often, the idea that I'm going to be a teen model is kind of, that ship has sailed, right? I'm not going to be there. My goal for my own health and wellness is to have peace with food, be able to be with friends and family and not have food be the most important thing, not have food be the most important thing in my life, right? Have a relationship with it where it's okay, it nourishes me. And the only place food has in my life is the place that it belongs to have in my life, as opposed to being my best friend, something to do when I'm bored, filling up the gaps with food instead of finding life, being passionate about that, right? So for me, health and wellness would be absence of diseases of lifestyle, and then also feeling comfortable in my own skin and having a right relationship with food and being mentally healthy as well as physically active, but not to the point where I have to exercise excessively to maintain that condition in my life, right? So I think I had told you when I first started my health and wellness journey, I started with a 20-second elbow plank. That was exactly where I started. And that was such a challenge, right? Like a 20-second elbow plank for a postpartum body that had just given birth for after its seventh baby was a challenge because I had really no core strength. So starting with a 20-second elbow plank, I kind of chuckle now saying it, but that for me was a challenge. And I had stumbled upon Payo, which is really like a Pilates and some yoga mixed in, and it's like strength training. And I fell in love with it. And I used that throughout my whole year of grace. And so, Shailene Johnson, in my opinion, was somebody I looked up to, right? Like I thought she looked very good, and I felt like she was just a real person. So 2 days ago, she made a video titled, "Did I Leave Beachbody and the Fitness Industry?" And I hope you know, like I am not a part of Beachbody at all. And I, in fact, really do not even advocate like the shakes and the food supplements and all that stuff, because I really feel like food should be something you sit down and eat. You taste it, you savor it, you should enjoy it in its rightful place, right? Like, so it's not supposed to be like the best part of your whole day, but you should take time and sit and let it nourish your body, right? Like, we're not machines. And I've written articles about this too, where prior to the Industrial Revolution, a meal was kind of considered an event. Like, it was a time when people would come together and fellowship really with one another for thousands of years. And then once the Industrial Revolution hit, people would start to go to work in factories, but our mind shift changed because machines really became the god of the day, right? Like, all these miraculous machines made more food production possible, made travel more possible. Like, we've kind of elevated these machines to like this godlike status. And we started thinking of our bodies as a machine, right? Like, so instead of thinking of us as like being a body and a mind and a soul, we just really thought of our body as a machine. And even if you're not, like, I am a Christian, but even if you're not, I want to challenge you with the thought, like, what do we consider to be horror? Horror is either a soul without a body, right? Like, which would be considered a ghost, like all the horror movies, like it's either a ghost or it's a body without a soul, like all the zombie movies and like, The Walking Dead and all those things. Like, all those things are considered horror to us, because even if you're not a religious person, I think you internalize the idea of like, yes, we are a body and a soul together. And so when you separate out the ability to like sit and give thanks for your food and actually taste it and enjoy it and savor it, not in a gluttonous way, but in a way that can nourish you and that you can take time to kind of decompress and pause in your day, there's just something wonderful about that, right? But like, once the Industrial Revolution hit, we took that idea and just made it like, no, our body just needs fuel. You just need to fill your tank and keep going because you're a machine, right? And so we kind of segregated it and we lost an essence, I think, of who we are in that process. And so watching this video that Shailene had put out, did I leave the Beachbody and the fitness? Like, why did I do that? She was putting the rumors to rest, but through she is a serial entrepreneur, which I love about her too, because I feel like I am as well. And she talks about how she kind of accidentally stumbled upon the success of the fitness industry. But as she was going to do her last video that she was going to be making, she was really struggling, and he had told her, you should lose some weight and tone up your body if you really want this to be successful. And she's like, I'm 5'2" and I already weigh 114 pounds. She had been exercising 3 to 4 hours a day just to maintain that. And she said she wasn't even eating real food anymore. She was just eating the supplements and the shakes that she was selling through Beachbody. And so she said she was suffering from orthorexia, which is something I talk about too. And it's this idea, it's like you become obsessed with being healthy, right? The next step would probably be anorexia, but this orthorexia is just this obsession with health where you become afraid of eating. You'll still eat, but you have to be super careful, right? Like, everything has to be like just you're afraid to take in anything into your body that might not be healthy, or you're afraid to, like, what will happen if I don't exercise for 4 hours today and I only exercise for 3 hours today. So I respect her so much for like really kind of sharing this information. And what I wanted to do is read to you a section, a chapter from the book, How to Eat Like Your Skinny Friends, which I do talk about this a lot, and I hope you find it encouraging. And just so you know, you can have the whole How to Eat Like Your Skinny Friends ebook. It's inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint, and when you pay the $1 trial, you get the access to the book too. It's in that main course. Once you log in, you'll see it, and you can find it, and you can read the whole book. It won't take you probably like an afternoon. It's really not big. But I wrote it as a companion product to the Health and Wellness Blueprint, and I think you'll find it helpful. And so anyway, long story short, I just feel like so vindicated because since 2018, when I launched Health, Wellness, and Chocolate, I have been trying to, yes, help people, feel comfortable in their own skin and lose weight in a healthy way. That, if they have extra weight on their body and they've yo-yo dieted, like moving away from that and moving towards this idea of like, okay, extra weight on your body is just a symptom of life out of balance. Let's figure out what's out of balance and fix that. And then the weight will take care of itself with the tools that I teach you. It's really that simple, right? And so I kind of feel like, having heard her talk, and I watched the whole video. It's only 32 minutes, and you can find her on YouTube if you go to Shailene Johnson. The video she posted up was just 2 days ago. It's Did I Leave Beachbody and the Fitness Industry? And you can go ahead and check that out. And I think you'll find it encouraging, especially if you always feel like maybe you come up short from the ideal of what you think your body should look like. If, I don't have a beach body, or, I have cellulite on my legs, or, this pooch on my belly won't go away, and I must be a failure because, like, you look at all these girls on these workout videos and they look amazing, but you don't see like the dark side of like most of them. And I kind of can speak from experience in this too, because I noticed it when I was in graduate school for health, and especially in the classes that I was taking, the nutrition classes to be a registered dietitian. A lot of them had eating disorders and actually had worked with dietitians, and that's kind of why they got into the health and nutrition anyhow. So a lot of the people that you see are either, maybe struggling with orthorexia, and I'm not everybody, right? But I think there's a probably more people than not might have this unhealthy bend to be healthy, and so if you're comparing yourself to this ideal that you have, like, you have to remember, like, these people do this for a living. This is their job. They're spending 8 hours a day in a gym. That like, their body is what they're marketing. Now, you can have it too if you want it, but like, that's the sacrifice you'll have to make. A lot of times they're not menstruating anymore. They're lacking the vital nutrients they need to even nourish their own bodies, much less be able to create life inside their bodies, right? Their body fat is so low. To me, that's not an ideal. To some people, that's like, yes, like, let's get so ripped and so lean that, you could see all the sinew and all the muscles. And that to me is just like, good for you. If that's what you want to do, fine. But I'm not willing to do that for me. And I know, just based on the research I've done, you don't have to do that in order to be the best version of yourself. So having said all that, let me head over to the ebook that I wrote and pull that up for you so you can see what's happening. Actually, let me pull it up. I'm sorry. I thought I had it up, but I must have closed it on accident. So let me just head over to, here we go. Okay. So this is chapter 6. And like I said, it's not a super long ebook, so you can really get through with it. And the whole book really is just focused on giving you some tools to use to reduce your weight if you'd like, without needing to diet. And so let me just make sure that I am on the right chapter. Okay. So let's start out. Okay, so this is chapter 6 on how to eat like your skinny friends. Since we have kicked dieting to the curb, you may be wondering, how will all this extra weight come off? But if you pay attention to your body and you feed it nourishing foods, studies have shown that weight will normalize as you move away from a diet mindset. And so I wanted to take this chapter to shed some light on the numbers on the scale and why they may not be the best indicator of a healthy and fit person. The scale should not be used to define your progress on your wellness journey. But my hope for you is that you find peace with food and begin to live a fulfilled life where food and diets are not the center stage. So as I mentioned earlier in the book, the emphasis on dieting is directly correlated to an increase in weight. And study after study after study backs this up. It's really fascinating. So once you start dieting, you can almost guarantee that you will gain weight. And I know if you're on a diet right now and you're listening to me, you're probably mad at me for saying that, but that's just what happens. And study after study kind of backs me up on that. There's interesting literature which suggests that as some women earned more equality in the workplace, the more powerful women became, the more pressure they faced to alter their bodies to be more lean and masculine. So for example, like shoulder pads in the 80s, like women, weren't allowed to be just soft nurturers anymore. We had to put on this fierce, buff persona. And even prior to World War II, women were predominantly in the home raising their families. It was considered healthy to have a curvy body. And excess fat was described as a snug balance in the body bank and a comfortable reserve in case of emergencies. And interestingly enough, when I started doing research for this book, I stumbled on the fact that the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company introduced the weight tables in 1942 as a guide because people did not weigh enough. Most recently, studies have demonstrated that some 20, 30, or even 50 pounds over the ideal weights on those charts actually have little, if any, increased health risk. On the other hand, someone who's underweight has the same health risk as someone who is morbidly obese. So being slightly overweight isn't really as horrible as we have been led to believe. It has been proven that being physically fit is much more important than how much you weigh. Studies have shown that the fittest men and women have the lowest death rates, regardless of what they weigh. Okay, so even just moving your body, regardless of what the scale says, is better for you. Body weight, as demonstrated by numbers on a scale, does not take into account your body fat or your muscle. So 2 cups of water weigh 1 pound, and many factors can influence your weight. Hormones, increased fluid retention, a high sodium meal. So 1 pound of muscle also holds 3 pounds of water. Clearly, the scale is not a reliable source of information. So how do you know when you have reached your ideal weight? You begin to feel comfortable in your own skin. And that's what I love to teach about. So you want to treat your body with respect, feed it nourishing, satisfying food, move it to increase your heart rate by doing something you enjoy. You want to make peace with your body. I had written an article called, "Do You Like Your Body? If Not, Head to a Museum." And basically the article was discussing how I had been flipping through a coloring book of the great works of art by Renoir, Picasso, Monet, Matisse. And I happened to see a couple of paintings of nude women. And what struck me most was that these women had normal, everyday, curvy bodies. A couple had that bump on the lower half of their belly, and they all had hips and thick thighs and breasts, which hung naturally. There was no digital enhancement, and these women were considered beautiful and worthy of creating art out of. They were considered so beautiful, they inspired these amazing artists to paint them. So this was eye-opening for me, right? Real women have real bodies. The women in the exercise videos or the ones that sell the weight loss shakes, they make their living working out and being fit in order to sell their products. They spend the majority of their day working on their biggest selling point, which is their body. The women in magazines or on TV, they have been digitally altered and enhanced. You can't compete with this, so give yourself a break from these modern ideals and love the body you have. Because once you begin to accept and love it, you will begin to treat it well, give it rest, nourish it with good food, move it around, and keep it fit. Respect your body. Don't worry about the number on the scale because your body will find its own natural set point eventually. The goal of life should not be to be thin at any cost because the goal of life is to live life. Okay? I hope if you take nothing away from this and our time together, it's that. So as you're going through the process of making peace with food, you might decide like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, how do I know what to eat? Or, I teach you that inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. And chances are, if you're here with me inside Health, Wellness, and Chocolate and listening to my podcast, you probably know all the food rules and all the right things to eat. Okay. But there's something else going on behind the scenes. And that's actually what we kind of dig up in Health, Wellness, and Chocolate. We talk about like, well, why are you always hungry at 4:00 in the afternoon? Like, why are those chocolate chips so irresistible then? Like, why can't you say no to them at that point in time? Like, what else is going on? Let's figure that out. And then the chocolate chips will lose their allure. And then when you're not eating them every day because you figured out what it was, what else was happening in your life, then you're not eating them and you're not ingesting those extra calories. And then the weight's kind of working itself out on its own while you're busy doing the life that you've created the life that you've wanted to live instead. And so that is like such a more powerful place to come from. So I don't know if Shailene Johnson will ever hear this, but I just wanted to thank her for her honesty. I feel like heard, I feel like people are starting to wake up to the fact like you don't have to torture your body and do all this stuff in order to be healthy and well. And the size of your body really doesn't determine how healthy you are, right? Like you could be a total nut job and have an amazing body. That doesn't mean you're mentally healthy. It doesn't mean like your relationships are good, your finances are good, you have good friendships. Like you might be being tortured, and just because you look good in a bikini doesn't really mean much. Okay. So I hope when you listen to this, you feel encouraged. And I hope this kind of pushes you if you're like on the edge, like, I don't know if I want to try out the Health and Wellness Blueprint. I hope this kind of pushes you over and says, okay, let me go read, at least let me check out that ebook. You can get it for $1 and read it and check it out and then have access to all the other videos as well. I call it the Netflix of weight loss inside that Health and Wellness Blueprint. And you can go ahead and check that out at healthwellnessandchocolate.com. All right. Have a good week, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.